Hello everyone, my name is James P. Wagner. I'm one of the publishers for Local Gems Press. Not that long ago, myself and my publishing partner Nick Hale went on a 2-week tour to a bunch of libraries and conventions and were giving presentations on various topics. A lot of the fans of our publishing company and our poets and the students who come to seek out how-to knowledge have requested that we make these presentations available on our website, and so that's what we're here doing. This one is Selling Your Poetry Book, A Poet's Guide to Marketing, because we've published over 150 titles now with quite a lot of individual authors, and they're always trying to find out new ways to go about selling your poetry book and get more into the business aspect of it, so that's what this is all about. This is just a shot of a table at one of our live events, which include a lot of the books that our company has published, including right there a copy of Selling Your Poetry Book, which is the more definitive version that this presentation is based around. So, first and foremost, a few facts about poetry books. Contemporary poetry bestsellers actually only number in about 500 to 800 copies. I know everybody's used to hearing best-selling in the numbers of the millions, like the J.K. Rowlings and the George R.R. Martins. That's actually not even really the case when it comes to fiction or nonfiction. Those are always the top 1%. You know, the 1% of the 1% at the very top that we always hear about. But the truth of the matter is, to be a best-selling fiction book on the New York Times bestseller list, it only requires 10,000 sales within a certain period. 7,500 to 10,000 sales, depending on the period. For nonfiction, that's 5,000 sales, and for poetry, it's 500 to 800. I know that a lot of people probably expect it to be higher, considering that, we have the classics like Edgar Allan Poe, Robert Frost, Walt Whitman, who the numbers of those books are in the millions. But let's not forget those are A, royalty-free, and B, usually taught in a school curriculum setting, which gives it the numbers that it needs. The truth of the matter is the average contemporary poetry book actually sells less than 100 copies, and 98% of published poetry collections will never find their way into a traditional bookstore. There are reasons that they won't find their way into a traditional bookstore. Regular distribution when it comes to poetry books has a bunch of built-in problems. What a lot of people on the general public don't know is that for all the books to end up in a brick-and-mortar bookstore, like, say, Barnes & Noble's, there is usually a book distributor that is located somewhere in the county or the tri-county area that actually provides the books to the bookstores in the area. To work with one of those distributors, a publisher has to provide that distributor with a large number of copies. About 1,000 is average, and they then will distribute the books to the various bookstores. The problem with that is, in poetry, you're looking at investment in 1,000 copies of a book to the distributor when we just talked about in the previous slide, 500 to 800 is a bestseller. So you're taking a chance on these being more than a bestseller for every single title. In addition to just the number of copies you have to provide, publishers have to guarantee to take a minimum of usually around 70% of the copies back if they actually don't sell during a period. The period is usually around 6 months. So as you can see, traditional marketing leaves poetry publishers, if they use the old model, that they could lose up to 70% of the revenue spent on the copies before royalties are even distributed. This is why you don't see a lot of presses out there, or big presses out there, that focus heavily on contemporary poetry. The closest thing that you will actually see to a poetry industry out there is the academic poetry, and they have an advantage sometimes. Over 50% of academic poetry titles are published by university presses. Those would be, obviously, the presses that the university has built into the university. University presses also have built-in distribution to college and university library systems. University and college libraries normally take 2 copies of a book, one for archives and one for the shelf, and there's over 2,000 academic libraries in the U.S., so a potential of 4,000 copies sold out the door just for publishing an academic poetry title without ever having to actually stage a book launch or do a book tour or anything. And when you take a nod back to the numbers that we talked about previously, the 500 to 800 range, you're looking at academic poetry titles automatically, just because of the built-in distribution, becoming bestsellers.